All right, CNT120, Chapter 4 Lab. We're on the Part 6 on IP version 6. So we're going to do literally what we did for the IP4. We're going to set IP version 6 addresses, ping, capture that, and look at the IP version 6 header. So let's start on the Windows. We're going to set our IP version 6 address. So in Windows, I'm going to open my command prompt, and I'm going to do ipconfig/all. I want to see the MAC address. So let me scroll up here to Ethernet 3. And I want to look at the MAC address. I'm going to use the last half of my MAC address to help build my IP version 6 address. So this right here, 28400B on my computer, I'm going to use. The first half identifies the manufacturer. The second half identifies the PC. So I'm going to copy that. Control C, and I'm going to keep that handy. I'm now going to go to where I do my IP address settings. So in here, network and sharing, Ethernet, properties, IP6 this time, properties. Let me scroll this over here. Here we go. And we are going to, get all these windows out of the way. Let me do this. This will make it, okay. Now we go. Let's go properties here. Here we go. Now we'll go IP6 properties. There we go. What I want to do is use the following. So I'm going to set a static, and I'm going to plug in FD00::, and now I'm now going to use the last 6 of my MAC address. So this is the network piece. I'm going to paste in the host piece, but you'll notice that Windows uses dashes, but they actually want colons here. So I'm going to have to take the dashes out and put colons in. And now I have, here's the network piece that we're specifying, and then this is the host piece coming from my MAC address. So this should not be duplicated with any other machine in the room. My subnet prefix is 64, and then my gateway I'll use FD00::1, and that is just a made-up number because I believe Linux does not like a blank on this one. So we're just going to do a made-up number here of FD00::1. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to make sure I don't have extra spaces at the beginning, at the end, etc., and then I will do an OK. If it doesn't let me do it, I need to go back and look for typos or things I've missed. Maybe the double colon, maybe a space on the end, maybe a space in the beginning, maybe forgetting to get rid of a dash. I have to look for all of those things and correct that. So I'm going to do close, I'm going to do close, I'm going to do close, I'm going to do close. And now I'm going to, at my command prompt, I'm going to do ipconfig, and I'm going to look for this new IP version 6 address. And there it is, right there. Could not be simpler. And you'll notice it has dropped the leading zeros, especially right here. That's fine. Not a big deal. We're going to repeat this process on the Linux side. So let me pull my virtual machine up. I'm going to slide it over. Right here, I'm going to do ifconfig, and I'm looking for the hardware address. The first half is the manufacturer. The second half is unique to this machine. Now you'll notice this one actually has the colons in, so that's actually helpful. So I'm going to highlight that second half, Control C to copy. I'm going to go to where I do my network settings, and just like before, I'll shut the NIC off. I'm going to go to use the little wrench here, and I'm going to go to IP6, and I'm going to do manual. For the address, FD00::, and I'm going to right-click, paste that in. Oops. Looks like I need to come over here and make sure I do actually copy it. I'm going to highlight that. I'll do a right-click, copy, and I will come over here and I'll do a right-click, paste. Now, luckily, this has colons, so I don't have to edit anything, but I'm going to make sure I don't have any spaces on the end. Right here, I'm going to do prefix of 64. Gateway, I'm going to do FD00::1. Make sure they're not O's, make sure it's zeros. And I will do apply on this one. Again, if that apply button does not light up, it's because I have things like spaces out here. Or, let me get rid of that. I'll come over here and put an O in instead of a 0. See that O that stands out right now? It's not letting me apply because I have an O there. So go fix it. Look for those typos. So I will apply. I will turn it back on. And I'm going to come in here. I'm going to do ifconfig. And I should see, here it is, FD00, bam, there's my IP address. Okay, now that I have that applied to both, just like before, I'm going to start Wireshark on Windows, and I'm going to ping the Windows machine from Linux. So let me slide my Linux machine over. I'm going to get Wireshark going over here. Ethernet 3. I will start that. I need this IP address. So from my Linux machine, I'm going to do ping space dash, actually I'm going to do ping 6. That's the command I'm going to use. I'm going to do FD00:28:40:B. And I am now pinging the Windows machine. I'll do a Control-C to stop that. Again, I need to make sure I'm copying that very carefully. Look out for those typos. All right, over here I'm going to do a stop. And I'm going to, I'll go back to my lab now. I'm going to put a filter in for ICMP version 6. If I do ICMP, that default is version 4, and there's nothing there. So I'm going to do ICMP version 6. Now I get stuff. And I have some neighbor solicitations, but I want the request and reply, request, reply, request, reply. And the request is coming from the 1B68 going to the 40B. So Linux to Windows, Windows to Linux, Linux to Windows. So I'm going to highlight this first request. Now let's look at the IP version 6 header and see if we see the fields that we read about. So here's my Ethernet header. There's the IP version 6 header. Let's open that up. Here's our version field, our version 6. There's our traffic class that's used for priority flow label. Here's our payload length, telling us 64 bytes. Next header says, hey, inside of here is ICMP version 6. Hop length, that's kind of like our TTL, kind of how far can this go before it times out. Source and destination address. So there's our source and destination addresses in here. All right. So what we'll do is just like we did in the last part, we're going to copy those header fields. So I'm going to grab my Windows file and let's do part 6, IP version 6 header. And we want to do, this was the ICMP version 6 request, and then we're eventually going to do the ICMP version 6 reply. So let's do we'll do a copy here. We'll copy, we'll do all visible items, that's fine. And we'll paste that in, and I'll clean out all the extra. I just want these right here. And then we'll do ICMP version 6 reply. That'll be the next one in line here. Here's the reply, and again I see these addresses flip-flop. So we'll do copy, all visible items. We'll come over here, paste that, and then I'll just get rid of everything above here. And then I'll get rid of this down here. And when I take a look at these, I should see, 6.8 is the source, B is the destination, B becomes the source, and 6.8 becomes the destination. I'm seeing this flip-flop like I did with the IP version 4 header. No difference. Okay? So before we leave, make sure we save that. Okay? What we'll do, and then we actually copied all those right here, we'll set everything back to dynamic. So I'm going to get rid of my packet capture here. I don't need that right now. And on my Windows machine, I'm going to set this back to dynamic. So network and sharing, Ethernet, properties, IP version 6 properties, obtain, and I'll do a quick check over here, and I'm going to make sure that my previous config is not there, and it is not. That's good. And on Linux, we'll do the same thing. In here, I'll shut the NIC off. I'll go to my settings, IP6, and I'm just going to carefully delete each of these lines. That usually works a little bit better if you do it that way. And then I'll apply that, and I'll turn the NIC back on, and I should see my IP version 6 stuff go away, which I do. Excellent. Okay. There is looking at our IP version 6 header.